Hey everybody, and welcome to a deck tech. I'm going to be doing a deck tech for this card called Bumphing, and the deck that is kind of built around it. There's a couple variants of the deck. Mine is a Quidditch-Transfiguration build. There's also a Quidditch Charms build that you can do that's also really, really good. So it's kind of whatever your flavor is of the month. I chose Transfiguration for reasons I'll talk about later. But yeah, so the whole point of the deck, kind of from like a higher up view before we actually dive into it, is play a bunch of Quidditch items and then do a bunch of damage with Bumphing from those items. So that's the goal. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It depends on how prevalent table trouble is in the meta you're playing in. So yeah, it starts Draco Malfoy Slytherin, and the reason for that is that Draco gives you an extra action whenever you use an action to play an item, and honestly that's just one of the strongest things you can do. You play items that ramp you and give you more power to play another item that's also high cost and gives you more power, and it just kind of is an endless cycle. He's the backbone of the deck. Without him, I don't think this deck could function. So I played 21 lessons. I don't feel like I need more because so many of the Quidditch items provide power. Honestly, I could probably play like one less transfig, I would say, maybe two less, and still be okay because of the extra actions from Draco and because of how many items provide power. But I just feel more comfortable with 21 to make sure I am drawing some lessons. Next, I have 2 copies of Through the Arch. I always play 2 or 3 copies of some adventure. Usually it's Through the Arch, but you could insert whatever your favorite adventure is here. I do this really so that during game 1, I have some kind of counterplay to a random card type. Spells is a really great one to have card play against, mainly because every deck will run some spells, even if it's not their primary thing. We'll dive into some of the more support kind of cards before we dive into the items. So first I have Inheriting the Map. This is one of the 2 reasons I'm playing Transfig. Inheriting the Map will be 1 card, and we can use 2 actions and get both an item and a spell. So go get whatever item you want, Quidditch Teams of Britain and Ireland, something else, and then go get Bumphing. So you get the 2 things that you kind of need to do a bunch of damage. The card just does everything for one. It's just incredible in this deck. Really, really recommend this card. The other reason I'm playing Transfig, and I'm skipping down a little bit, is because of Turbulent Flight. And the entire thing with this is it does some damage, and then it's a removal for a card type if you have a Transfig lesson in play. So by having this Quidditch Transfig build, Turbulent Flight gets much, much better than if I did not play Transfig. Then I have, for general, like discarding my opponent's things, Stairs into Slides, super powerful Transfig spell to get rid of something, discard a non-lesson card they played during their last turn. And I have Caught. I just think Caught is one of the best removal pieces in the game because discarding 4 cards from your hand is a really steep price for protecting 1 thing on board. So it's just super flexible. I also just love the artwork with the troll caught in like this chain tree transfiguration thing. I think it's wonderful. So that's kind of my interaction suite. 2 Stairs into Slides, 1 Caught, 3 Turbulent Flight. It's not really a lot. There's more on the sideboard for later matchups, but this is kind of the beginning. So then we'll dive into a backup for Bumphing. So Bumphing, if they're all discarded because of damage or something, or you play 1 and you don't draw another, you need some other way to kind of win. So I do have Blackboard Advertisements, and the reason I have this is because you count the number of items you have in play and do that much damage. It's kind of like an Arthur Weasley, but on a Transfiguration card. This is really strictly a backup. Honestly, 3 copies is probably way too much. It's also really action intensive, which is not great. Draco does give you the action back, but it's still kind of intensive. So 3 is probably too much. To get back Bumphing in case Bumphing goes away, I do have a Zigzag. I play 1 copy. This is kind of just an insurance policy. Honestly, it's probably not needed because I'm searching with Inheriting the Map, but I always like it just to be safe because I've had games where the first couple of turns or whatever, all of your core cards are hit, and then you're kind of screwed. So I think having at least 1 for insurance is good. The rest of the cards are all going to be items. Honestly, probably take out 1 Blackboard Advertisement, put in another item of something. There's not really a ton of super strong Quidditch items that I want to play a lot of. So until we get more of them, I guess we're kind of stuck with some of these. There's more you can put in, but like these are the ones that I thought made more sense. So I do have a couple of brooms, or just 1 broom. 2 brooms, sorry. I have a Nimbus 2000, one copy, really just for when I get higher up in that power and play. I can play this and it will just make my Bumphing do a little more damage. I do have two Comet 260s. This is my favorite broom. I know people like to like rearrange top of their deck with like school broom or whatever it's called. I really like the one less damage every turn. It adds up. I mean, if this thing can prevent 5 or 6 damage, that's a whole card that it's prevented and it's paid for itself, plus provides a power, gives you an extra action with Draco. I just love Comet 260. I also love the art. I love the nice little banner and everything. It's very 90s, 80s, whatever, and I just love it. I think it's really, really fun. So after that, I play 3 Hogwarts Quidditch robes. This is kind of like Comet 260, just to slow down my opponent from winning. It does a little bit of healing. You can have multiple in play, which is great, whereas the brooms you can't. So Quidditch robes, wonderful card. Highly recommend it in many Quidditch decks. I have broomstick servicing kit. Again, this just provides power and it lets you play a broom from your discard pile. That's not really super relevant, honestly, but maybe I want to play a Nimbus 2000 or something, so I discard the broomstick servicing kit. If anything, it would give you an extra action for playing the item, but it's fine. It's fine. Again, there's not tons of like super great Quidditch cards that are items that just bleed into this idea super well. When we get more, I'll probably take out servicing kit. Quidditch Through the Ages, self-explanatory. Draw 3, provides a power, 2-cost book. It's that whole Diagon Alley series of books, fantastic. Always great to put 1 or 2 in any deck. Flying with the Cannons. Again, this is a really great cheap book that provides a power. This one is nice though because the things like Table Trouble or whatever else are always kind of a concern. So with this, the idea is play it kind of early and then play some lessons. And then once those lessons are, I think you play 2 or 3, then you can discard this to go get more lessons. So overall, it just kind of is like a ramp piece because Bumphing is 10, so we do have quite a high bar to reach, and this just helps with that. Yes, it does kind of suck to discard it for its own effect because it counts toward Bumphing when it's in play, but it's fine. Quidditch Teams of Britain and Ireland, probably the best Quidditch item in the deck, I would say, mainly because it provides 2 power, which is incredible. And whenever one of your spells does damage, you can discard it to have it do 5 more damage. So you play Bumphing with this in play. Let's say you have 5 items, that's 15 damage. Discard this with its effect, and then you will do 20 damage total. So just a really great card for a little bit of extra damage here and there. Probably, yeah, the best Quidditch item in this deck. And then the last thing I have is a Child's Broom. This is great because it's not a broom, so you can have multiple in play, and it costs 1. So you can play it turn 1 with Draco. You could even do like a lesson Child's Broom into a Quidditch Through the Ages. And then you have 2 items and 3 power, turn 1 and play with Draco, and that's very powerful. So Child's Broom is in there just for that. It's so simple and basic, and we put that funny text on that Child's Broom is not really a broom to mimic like the licorice wand or whatever. So just a really fun card. So this is kind of what the deck looks like. There's lots of adjustments you can make. I talked about some during this because I was having more thoughts as I was talking. So lessons, some interaction pieces, go into the game plan with Bumphing and Blackboard advertisements, and then go into a bunch of the items. Could probably play a lot more Quidditch items. Again, there's just not a ton that make me super excited to put into the deck, but we could put more duplicates of Child's Broom, put more robes if we want to. There's some things that we could do. So this is kind of the core of the deck. So we'll talk about the sideboard. I'm not great at sideboarding, but I think I do kind of the same thing every time and it works decently, so we'll just do it. I have 2 more copies of Through the Arch, mainly because, again, it's really great against adventure decks, so always recommend Through the Arch. And I don't know what I would swap in and out for this, but yeah, I would play 2 Through the Arches on top of my 2 in the deck. I do have 3 Hiding from Snape's in case my opponent is playing items. I don't want to play Table Trouble because it will wreck my own items, but Hiding from Snape will stop my opponent's items while still protecting mine. So I think this is a really great sideboard card. I would swap out the adventures for this adventure. That's kind of what I do, is swap out the adventures. I also love the artwork on this. Harry under the invisibility cloak is just fantastic. Next, I have the first Triwizard Tournament, and this is in here because character decks are very popular and very strong, and this is just a way to slow those down a little bit. And this also slows down your opponent's adventures if you want to do that as well. So just all around a good card for that. Quidditch and Transfig don't have an amazing way to deal with characters, so that's kind of why something is needed. 3 copies is probably too much. I think Draco can race most characters' decks, so I'm not sure if 3 copies are needed, but here we are. I have 2 copies of Filch because, again, I don't have great ways to deal with an adventure in play, and if my opponent has an adventure-heavy deck, this just really helps. I have 2 McNairs. I need some way to deal with creatures, so my last 5 sideboard cards are 2 Waldens and 3 Transfiguration Tests. These are just ways to deal with creatures. Sure, I have the generic removal of like Caught and Stares into Slides, but something like Walden is just a much stronger wall against characters, or sorry, against creatures, where I think he's really worth having in the sideboard. There's other things you could probably do, like if we're getting to 10 power anyway, there's Transfiguration Exam, which discards all creatures. You could put In the Stands as a sideboard piece, which stops your opponent's creatures from either doing damage or being played. There's a couple of different things. I don't really play Walden often, and I thought this was an interesting opportunity to get to play Walden, so he's in the deck. And I could put 3 Waldens and 2 Transfig Tests. Either is kind of fine. Play, see what you like more. Both are great options. So this was a really quick deck tech for my Draco Malfoy Bumphing deck. Hopefully this gives you some inspiration for building an item deck in the future and testing out Bumphing. It's been in some tournaments in the past. One tournament it came in 2nd place. It was a really, really great deck. That was the Quidditch Charms version of it. You can find that on our website, and hopefully we'll see you playing some games with this in the future.